Okay, so now let me just once again revise what we did in the last class. In the last class, as I told you, suppose if the series are connected like this, one after another in line, like one is here, then followed by the next one, followed by the third one. If they are in line like this kind of combination is called as series combination. And suppose I give you the values of these resistances. This is 5, this is 10, and this is again 5. So what is the total resistance of the circuit? If they are in series combination, you will simply add them and you will do Rs is equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3, means it is simply the addition of all the three resistances. Okay, but when it comes to parallel combination, what do you mean by a parallel combination? If the resistance are connected like this, parallel to each other, okay, and one end of all the resistance are connected to one end, and the other end of all the three resistance are connected together here like this, so they are in parallel now. So in parallel combination, the formula of effective resistance will be 1 upon Rp is equal to 1 upon R1 plus 1 upon R2 plus 1 upon R3. What is most important, where most of the students go wrong, is that they forget the left hand side. They only remember this right hand side, the formula, substitute the value and call it the equivalent resistance. However, where they go wrong is that they do not remember that the left hand side is 1 upon Rp. So whatever answer you are getting after solving this, you have to invert the answer. That becomes your equivalent resistance, because ultimately the equivalent resistance is Rp and not 1 upon Rp. Fine. So these things are to be kept in mind while you solve parallel and series combination. Also, we learnt that in a series combination, the current which starts from this here, from the battery, from the positive end of the battery, same current flows through R1, same current flows through R2 and R3 and the other resistance if at all they are connected, and the same current flows through the entire circuit. Current does not get divided, isn't it? What gets divided here? The voltage. So you remember about the current, so you will know what is it for the voltage. Now in the series combination, the current remains same, so the voltage will get divided. So if here battery, the voltage of the battery is V, so then this V should be equal to V1, V2 plus V3. Fine. Now in the parallel combination, the current does not remain the same, and I told you the reason. When the current starts from here, then it comes here at this point, point A, then it will start thinking. Wherever it will get least resistance, I told you what is the you can say in Hindi we may call resistance means एक तरह की रुकावट, ठीक है? So now the current will stop here at the point A and will start thinking, which path should I take? Should I flow through R1? Should I flow through R2? Or should I take R3? So whichever resistance is less, the current is going to take that path. Means maximum current is going to take that path. Fine. Suppose if this is 100 ohm, R1 is 100 ohm and R2 is 1 ohm and R3 is 5 ohms. So maximum current is going to flow through R2 because it is the least resistance. Current does not want any resistance. It wants to have least resistance. So what will happen here in the parallel combination? It is the current which gets divided. Fine. It is not the voltage. Voltage will remain the same. So you remember about the current, the opposite is for the voltage. So I am sure parallel and series combination are pretty clear to you. What gets divided, what does not get divided, what flows through the entire circuit. Is this clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
If you are clear about this, let us now go ahead with heating effects of electric current. Now, electric current produces some kind of heat in the conductor. If there is a current flowing, it produces heat. Can you give me some examples that you must have seen in your practical life where you have seen that there is some current flowing and the yes, exactly, bulb.
I'm electric heater.
Yeah, heater.
I'm electric heater.
Very good, heater. Yes. Very good, very nice. So what happens in all these devices? Whenever you start, suppose your iron, okay, your electric iron. Now, as long as the switch is not on, there is no current flowing. And when there is no current flowing, the iron is not hot. But as soon as you put the switch on, current starts flowing, and you can feel that the electric iron becomes hot. Suppose you're putting your phone on charging. So have you seen sometimes even the phone becomes hot? Have you seen that it becomes hot after some time? Or
Yes,
suppose
ma'am.
you're using your
Yes,
laptops.
ma'am.
You're charging your laptops. Your laptops become hot, isn't it? So electric current will give rise to some heat. So now we are going to find out what is that heat, how much is that heat produced. So suppose if you're charging your phone, and if I ask you that after 1 hour of your charging of your phone, how much heat is produced by or in your phone, so you can calculate that heat. You know this equation, V is equal to WD upon Q. We all have studied this equation. This equation is of potential difference, and we studied that the potential difference is work done in moving a unit charge from one point to another point in a current carrying conductor. So the formula of potential difference is work done upon Q. This is WD is work done upon charge. Now we consider this small circuit. This is how we make a simple circuit. So we consider that in this circuit, let's say I amp is the current which is flowing through the resistance R. So how much is the current flowing? I ampere is the current flowing. Okay. Also, let's say that the potential difference across this battery is V. The potential difference across the battery is V. So now we are assuming, and let's say that T is the total time through which the charge is flowing. That means you can say that, let's say your phone is getting charged for 1 hour. So that 1 hour is the time. So here how much is the time? T is the time, and in this time T, charge Q is flowing, and the potential difference is V, and the current which is flowing through the circuit is I, and the resistance as depicted here is R. So these are various assumptions that we will assume. Now, if we know all these things, what is going to be the work done? Work done is simple. Work done is equal to V multiplied by Q, because we will use this formula. So we know work done is equal to potential difference multiplied by charge. So we have written same formula in terms of work done. Now, power is how much of work can you do in a certain amount of time. Suppose you can run for 3 kilometers, but you can run in, let's say, in 15 minutes. And if your brother can run 3 kilometers in 1 hour, who has more power?
And we.
Yes, you have got more power, because you can do the same work in least amount of time, and your brother is doing the same amount of work in more time. So you have got more power. So the formula for power is work done upon time. So now instead of this work done, we will substitute this V multiplied by Q. So look what happens. Power is equal to, we will write work done as potential difference multiplied by charge. From which formula? This formula. Okay. Now we also know that V we will write as it is Q upon T. Q upon T is nothing but the current. We studied in the initial classes of this chapter. We studied that the amount of charge flowing per unit second is the current. So we can substitute Q upon T will become I, which is current. So now we are getting P is equal to V multiplied by I. P is the power, V is the potential difference, I is the current flowing through the circuit. Now, what is heat? What is the formula of heat? Heat is power multiplied by time. This is the formula of heat. So you have to here remember 3 formulas. First is this potential difference is equal to work done upon Q, that is charge. Then you have to remember Q upon T is equal to current. Then you have to remember H is equal to, heat is equal to P multiplied by T, which is power multiplied by time. That is called as heat. So look at this. What is power from the above formula that we have calculated? power is V into I, so we will substitute V into I in place of power, and then we will write multiply by T. So what is the formula of heat? VIT. Fine. But then what we will do is, so we get heat is equal to VIT. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to convert this potential difference, and we are going to write the potential difference in terms of current and resistance. What have we learned from the Ohm's law? V is equal to IR, isn't it? From the Ohm's law we know V is equal to IR. So when we substitute V is equal to IR, it will become I square R multiplied by T. So this is the formula of heat. Heat produced in any conductor is equal to I square RT. I square RT. This formula is called the Joule's law of heating. Heat is directly proportional to current. Heat is directly proportional to resistance. Heat is directly proportional to time. Let's first talk about current. The more the current flows, the more the heat. Suppose you allow a lot of current to flow through any device, your mobile phone, your laptop or anything. The more the current is going to flow, the more will be the heat produced. It will become hot. So that's why I've written, the law says that heat produced in any conductor will be directly proportional to, or any resistance will be directly proportional to square of the current. Look at this. Heat is directly proportional to square of the current. Secondly, if the resistance is going to be more, it is going to, produce more heat. Heat is directly proportional to resistance. The more the resistance, the more the heat. Third, look at time. The more time that you use any device, or the more time the current flows, the more will be the heat. Suppose you are using your laptop for just 2 minutes, it won't become hot. But if you're using the laptop for, let's say, half an hour or 1 hour, the body of the laptop also gets hot. So if you know all these things, if you know what is the current flowing, if you know what is the resistance flowing, and if you know for how much time is it being used, then you can calculate what is the heat produced. So this formula is called the Joule's law of heating. Okay, now this is the Joule's law of heating. Now, as you told me all these examples by on your own, you said electric iron is the example, toaster is the example, electric oven is the example, electric kettle, electric heater. These are the examples and application of Joule's law of heating. Let's talk about the electric bulb. Now in between you see this wire here, this is called the filament. This is called the filament, and if you see it very carefully, it is very thin, sleek, and whenever any short circuit occurs or the bulb fuses, you will see that this is the filament which actually fuses. This is a filament. Okay, so this filament is made up of a very, very strong metal which is called as tungsten. You will have to remember this term, tungsten. So this filament is made up of tungsten, and please remember that tungsten is the strongest metal. Okay, there is another reason why you use tungsten here, is because its melting point is very high, of the order of the range of 3380 degrees Celsius. Why? Because if a large amount of current flows through it, what would happen if the melting point is very low than this figure, and suppose high amount of current flows, at times this metal may just burn, okay, and the bulb may fuse easily. That's why you use a strong metal, so that even if the heat is so much, the melting point is close to 3000 degrees Celsius also, the metal will not melt. Okay, that's why you use tungsten, because you want to have a very strong metal here. Okay, the melting point is only 3380 degrees Celsius. Only beyond this melting point it can melt, otherwise it will not melt. Now, another thing is that in this bulb there are some gases. These gases are argon gases, maybe nitrogen gases, and why do we have these gases in the bulb? Is because they just to protect this filament, in order to come in contact with the oxygen or the environment and have some kind of reaction. That's why they always fill the bulb with inert gases. Inert gases means they are very inactive. They cannot let any reaction happen within the bulb. So these gases will not react. Okay, so that's why you fill up these gases. And of course the bulb gives you, when you pass the current through the bulb, it gives you heat and light also. So this is, bulb is the one of the practical application of Joule's law of heating. So in case the question comes about practical application, first is you can discuss electric bulb. Instead of discussing all the other devices, you can easily discuss electric bulb. The second one is electric fuse. Now if you have seen these fuses, they come in this kind of glass cylinder and they have a wire which connects the two ends here. Okay, generally a copper wire, and it has got some ratings like 5 amp, 2 amp, 10 amp, something like that. A very high amount of current is flowing through this fuse. If it is higher than the required amount of current, so this metal, this wire will burn immediately. It will melt. When it burns, the circuit is broken. If the circuit is broken, that high amount of current will not be able to flow to your device, let's say to your fridge or to your inverter, and it will save your inverter, it will save your device, it will save your equipment. So that's why they say that it is better to use fuse. All you can do is, suppose the fuse is gone off, you just have to replace the fuse, which will cost about maybe about 10 rupees or 15 rupees, which is very cheap. But if you do not use a fuse, then that high amount of current will straight away flow to your equipment, to the fridge or to any device that you're using, and high amount of current can end up damaging your appliances. That's why electric fuse is something that you use at your homes. So in this, generally we use copper wire. And why do we use copper? And here, why don't we use a very strong metal like tungsten? Is because you want this wire to burn as quickly as possible. Fine. If the current is just slightly more than the required amount, then you want that this wire should burn. This wire should melt. Okay. If it does not melt, that means it is not the right type of fuse that you have used in your appliances. Fine. So these are the two practical applications that you can discuss if the question comes about Joule's law of heating. This is the last topic, which is a commercial unit of electric energy, and you have studied in this class 9th. So what is the commercial unit of electricity? It is
kilowatt hour.
Kilowatt hour. What is 1 kilowatt? 1 kilowatt hour is 3.6 into 10 to the power of 6 joules. How did I come to this figure? I know that the commercial use of electricity is kilowatt hour. First you have to convert this kilowatt into watt. What is kilowatt into watt? 1000 watt. Okay, so 1 kilowatt will become 1000 watt. R को आपको seconds में convert करना पड़ेगा. So if you convert hours into seconds, it will become 3600 seconds. Fine. Now if you multiply, you will get 3.6 into 10 to the power of 6 joules. So either you can talk in terms of joules, but the commercial unit of electricity is kilowatt hour. So have you understood till this point? We finished the chapter here.